Women are the bedrock of any nation, and if you get women financially literate, the progress that you will see in a society is immeasurable.
Meet Avinash Satwalekar, the president of Franklin Templeton India, who drove 4,000 kilometers from Kanyakumari to Kashmir in his endeavor to change the Soch, breaking down the traditional mindset of how women approach money, investing, and long-term security. If you're a woman just realizing that financial freedom is your ultimate insurance policy, this is the one conversation you cannot afford to miss.
Quite honestly, the best investors, if they get 2 out of 3 decisions right, they're geniuses. That's Warren Buffett, which means 33% of his decisions are wrong. You're saying you want 100%.
Any kind of pattern that you saw which was common in women?
They all are very goal focused. And I think that that's, to a certain extent, the perfect kind of investor. Men tend not to be goal focused, they tend to be return focused. People have this misperception that investing is complicated.
Isn't it?
It isn't.
Let's say if 100 rupees have been invested, even after all the slump and all of that, it's still 130 or 150. How do you account for the inflation?
So when we talked about risk, it wasn't about the fact that you would lose your money. It wasn't the fact that the NAV was going to go down and the price would go down. It is a fact that you will lose purchasing power. And that is exactly what inflation is. What fund is this? What return is this? How am I getting it? What is the 3-year performance? None of that is important. Think of your diets, right? Sab log bolte hain, well-balanced diet. Why can't you apply that to your own portfolio? If you're planning on retirement, here are the 4 or 5 things you need to get done.
Just define risk a little bit more.
What do you mean by risk?
When I'm investing in something which is suddenly going to crash.
That's the fundamental problem. The risk is
When I open my portfolio and I see a lot of reds coming down, how much should I panic?
not at all. Why?
Hello. How are you? Hi, how are you? I don't have espresso and all fancy stuff, but I can offer you black coffee, cappuccino, chai.
Perfectly fine.
Cut. Hi, Avinash.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Welcome to Candid Confessions with Chhavi.
Thank you.
So I came across some videos online where you've picked up a car and you're driving from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and you're stopping at these little towns in the middle and addressing women about investment. Can you tell me what made you do that and what was the thought behind it?
So firstly, it was actually the other way around. It was Kanyakumari to Kashmir.
Okay.
So the idea was essentially to look at investor education and more about financial literacy and focusing in on women. And the main reason for that is, so I've had 2 fundamental beliefs. One is that women are the bedrock of any nation. And if you get women financially literate, the progress that you will see in a society is immeasurable. So those were the 2 main reasons. And where do you need to have that happen? Not necessarily in urban. You need it where most of the women are. And most of the need is. And that's in Bharat.
And were most of these women uneducated?
For the most part, yes.
So
they were.
how does that conversation go when you know that they're...
Very simple.
Okay.
Very simple. See, I think people have this misperception that investing is complicated.
Isn't it?
It isn't.
Okay.
We make it complicated. And when I say we, the industry, right?
Oh.
It is a very simple concept, right? You save money, you invest that money, and you leave it alone and you let it grow. That's not a complicated concept. What becomes complicated is, I'm sure you've seen, okay, what should you invest in? Should you do this large cap, small cap, thematic, this, that, and the other? Those are tools. The basic premise of investment is not difficult. And that's where you need to start, right? And that's where we did start, which is basically saying, why are you doing this in the first place? Why do you need it, right? And why do you need it? In order to secure your financial future.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So was there any kind of pattern that you saw which was common in women across?
I wouldn't say there was a pattern necessarily. The most common thing is they all are very goal focused, which is incredibly important when you're an investor. The biggest challenge is that a lot of us go return chasing rather than starting out with being goal focused.
What does that mean?
So goal focus is simple. You've got a 13-year-old daughter. What do you want to make sure for her future? You want to have her get a good education.
Right.
You want to make sure she goes to a good college. You need funding for that. That's a goal. Now,
Okay.
right? So your goal is what? Your child's education. And just by the way, right throughout, from the south to the north, that was the number one goal. And it did not matter what kind of person we spoke to.
And did you also speak to men during this time?
So we had men as well in there
And was
because,
there a difference in their goals?
so I'll tell you in general, men tend not to be goal focused, they tend to be return focused. And I think that that is a very, I'd say, a fundamental difference. And there's a reason for that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, I mean, we can go into the science of it, but there is a reason for that. And that is that men fundamentally want to be able to brag about certain things also. Investments is no different. It gives me immense joy to show my friends that I bought something at X and it became 2X in the span of 6 months. I mean, think about your average Saturday night conversation, right? That's what happens most times. Women never talk about that. Women talk about what? How do you put things away for the future? What am I doing for my kids? How am I planning certain things? There's always a planning and a goal orientation to it, which is what you need to bring into investments. And I think that that's, to a certain extent, the perfect kind of investor.
Okay, like a mix of both.
Yeah, you need to be a mix. See, I think the returns are a result. What you invest in, whether it's gold, whether it's mutual funds, whether it is direct equity, whatever it is, those are tools.
Right.
But the fundamental first question is, ye aap kyun kar rahe ho? Why are you doing this? That needs to be answered. And you know why that's important? Because unless you answer that, at the first sign of trouble, you're going to start questioning everything that you do and you're going to make silly mistakes.
Silly mistakes like?
You'll start pulling money out at the wrong time. So the market goes down. When you should be putting more money in, you will pull money out because you panic.
Okay.
So if you have a goal, you're very clear, well, I don't need to touch this for 10 years. Now, there's not been an environment where in 10 years you've not made money. There's not been an environment where in 5 years you've not made money. But if you don't have that goal orientation, then you're only looking at the present. And investments is not about the present. It is very much about the future.
But isn't it, as a woman, I'm totally asking you as a woman, that if my goal is the education of my child,
Yep.
isn't that also return focused
Of course
in
it
a
is.
way?
It is return focused. But it is not return focused as in 6 months from now.
Okay. It's just
Right.
always long term.
It's a longer term goal, right? So if you think about it, if you started when your child was born and you want your child to go to college and you're saving for that, let's say assume school is taken care of through operating expenses, right? Meaning your salary. You want to save for a really good college. When does she go to college? When she's 18.
Yeah.
That's an 18-year goal. Are you going to sweat it if the market goes down two months? Forget 2 months, 2 years. No.
Doesn't matter.
That's about 16 years ahead of me, right? So that changes your perspective a lot. And that's what's critically important.
I think for women, it's a lot about safety. Okay, that's one reason why they don't think that they want to get into the core of investing and handle the entire family's finances. Second, I would say, is a bit of lack of awareness. They don't know about the products available and how the market performs. Third is probably they get a little too much of guilt if they end up losing in the process. So these are some of the reasons why women always take a back seat. Although I did get some statistics when I was researching this. There was a report published in the Times in April 2026. And it says that women are often given the worst financial advice by the male advisors. It's because they too believe in the stereotype that women are more likely to invest if they are pushed a safer product. Is that really true? And how can we change that narrative?
Let's take it back a step to what you started with, right? The guilt, the safety. Now ask yourself, does your male counterpart, let's assume your husband or your brother or your father, do they feel the same?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's quite exciting
I can
for
tell
them.
you they don't. Exactly. If you lose money, you think there's the same level of guilt.
No, I think they're even more driven to invest more to recover it.
Correct. So that is not anything to do with how you brought up the awareness part of it, right? That awareness is part of education.
Yeah.
And that's Absolutely right. And that's one of the things that we're trying to fix, right? But, I mean, the drive, we called it change the Soch. And what are we trying to change? Is precisely that thinking, right? Why should you feel guilty? Every investment, quite honestly, the best investors, if they get 2 out of 3 decisions right, they're geniuses. That's Warren Buffett.
Okay.
2 out of 3, which means 33% of his decisions are wrong. Now, you're saying you want 100%. Because if you lose even once, the guilt is too much.
True.
You're setting yourself up for failure, right? So that thinking needs to change.
You think it can change?
Of course it can. Why can't it?
What is the response that
Better
you got?
awareness. So I'll tell you very simply, actually the thinking changes automatically.
How?
Because if you look at the way you invest and if you're investing longer term, just think about it. We did a whole study of the last 15 different market crises.
Okay. Over a span of how many years?
No, so whenever the crisis occurs, so let's say the crisis occurred during COVID, right? Now, from where it started to where it bottomed out, market went down some 30 odd percent,
Okay.
right? Or 38%, I forget exactly what the number was, but let's assume 30%. And then we measured 1-year performance, 3-year compounded performance, 5-year compounded performance. All positive.
Okay.
And we did 15 different crises, right? So right from the dot-com bust in 2000 to GFC in 2007, 2008, right? The global financial crisis. And in no scenario did you have a negative return.
Okay.
So you have history on your side, right? But still, while you're going through it, you are panicking.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about it, right? If you know that in 3 years, if somebody comes to you and tells you, don't worry, in 3 years you'll have positive returns, what would your reaction be at that time? If your value of 100 is now at 70 and somebody tells you in 3 years, don't worry, not only will it be at 100, it'll be higher than 100. What would your reaction be?
No, it'll definitely be reassuring.
Reassuring, but what would you do if you saw your things at 70?
I'll just wait.
You'll still wait?
Yeah.
Or would you put more?
No,
I'm giving
I
you
would wait.
Why? Why would
Should
you
I
wait?
put more?
Of course you
See,
should
that
put
is
more.
that is the thing I'm saying. This
See,
is
you're getting, so that's what I'm trying to tell you is, right, you got to think longer term. So I'm telling you, 3 साल में आपका 70 का 100 हो जाएगा. Why would you not put more?
that is exactly the mentality that I'm talking about.
तो वो
This
change
is-
होनी है ना. Think about how you have evolved yourself as, we were talking about this earlier, right?
Yeah.
How you have evolved
Yeah.
as an investor yourself,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
that has also changed.
It's a step-by-step
Why
procedure.
did it change?
There was a need.
There was a need
I wanted to understand. I
Correct.
wanted to learn.
and you learned.
Yes.
So once you learn certain things, it changes the way you operate. And that's what you need. But in order to do that, see, I think we have to first break down, what we saw, right? What I saw on the drive was that you had to break down the notion that first, 2 big things. 1, it is complicated.
Yeah.
And 2, बहुत पैसे लगते हैं. I'm going to make money so that I can invest. I need to make money and then I can invest. That notion itself is flawed. You can invest with as little as 500 rupees. So you can actually invest to make money. That thinking needs to change. So there's 2 of those. So I think the teaching them the differences in the products and all that stuff is easy.
And how was the response that you got from the women there?
Initially, it was, we would start this, right? It's typically a 45-minute presentation and then Q&A for as long as they wanted. When you start the whole discussion, right, there's a lot of apprehension. There's a lot of like, wait, I got to try and understand. Everybody is paying attention because they think this is a very difficult subject and your natural tendency is to, chalo, concentrate karo,
Yeah.
warna
समझ में
समझ
नहीं
में नहीं
आएगा.
आएगा. Exactly. And you realize that halfway through, you could visibly see them start to relax a little bit.
Okay.
And by the end of it, the questions were free-flowing.
Okay.
So when do you ask questions in a crowd? So I'm talking about now, imagine a room full that is 200, 300, 500 women.
When you start understanding a concept and you want to know more about it.
Correct. Simple. So you ask questions when you feel a little more comfortable. And that's what I think we saw.
And what kind of questions did you get?
Simple things. So I'll tell you the number one question was, okay, is this safe? So I said, depends on how you define safe. So flip it around the other way. Is this risky? I said, everything is risky. I said, what do you invest in today? Say, what is the most common set of investments? Postal savings, bank deposits, gold, and then,
FDs?
yes,
Oh.
bank deposits, FDs, of course.
Okay.
See, you've got that like, why would you be doing that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, you are doing that today,
Correct.
right? Think about yourself 10 years ago or 15 years ago
Yeah.
when you started your journey. That's probably what you did as well. What did we all grow up learning is that
Yeah.
save karke bank mein dal do.
True. Saving is investing.
Correct. Which is now not the case. Savings is one thing and you got to invest it to grow it. But so the last thing that they were talking about was chit funds.
Okay.
Now, I have not heard the term chit funds in I can't imagine how long.
Yeah.
And that's a reality.
Wow.
So I'll tell you, we drove into Bellary, which is a town in Karnataka. A very wealthy town because there's a lot of mining activity.
Okay.
Paise hain. But literally the week before, somebody had run away with 100 crores. 100 crores in a chit fund.
Oh man.
So think about, paise hain, 100 crore hai wahan pe. But they're still investing. So that when you tell me that, is there risk? I'm like, you are already taking a ton of risk
Absolutely.
without realizing it.
Yeah,
right?
there's no bigger risk than that actually.
So I said, define what risk means. Somebody will take our money and go away. I'm like, if you go into a mutual fund, you can see it any day, any second of the day with all the apps now. So you know where it is. You know exactly what it is worth.
Wow, when you put it like that.
So risk is defined as a loss of capital. That's true risk. ऊपर नीचे जो होता है, वो risk नहीं है. That's volatility.
So you were talking about that when you compared every time there was a slump in the market and when you compared it over the years, it was always profitable. So now my question is that let's say if 100 rupees have been invested and in 3 years, even after all the slump and all of that, it's still 130 or 150.
Okay.
How do you account for the inflation? Is it still valued at the same 50% extra? How do you define that?
Very, very good. Because I think the number one, so let's take it one step back a little bit because you've touched on one of the most important pieces of what we were trying to talk about.
Okay.
Right? So when we talked about risk, it wasn't about the fact that you would lose your money, wasn't the fact that the NAV was going to go down and the price would go down. It is a fact that you will lose purchasing power. And that is exactly what inflation is.
Right.
Now, if you think about it, everybody understands the concept that prices upar jate hain. Right? They understand that. Everybody, we see it every day. But you don't translate that into purchasing power. Right? So that was one of the simple concepts that we were trying to break down was to say, okay, today, how much does like when we were in the South, we said, okay, how much does a dosa cost? Right? It cost 50 rupees. How much did it cost last year? Oh, it only cost 30 rupees. So it's gone up a ton, right? Now, if you break that into percentages, right? I said, has your income gone up by that much? No. Nobody's income goes up by 50, 60%, right? So if your income didn't go up by that much, but your costs have gone up by that much, how are you making up for it?
Unless you're investing.
Unless you're investing, unless your salary goes up, unless you're able to compensate for it in some way, shape or form. Or instead of eating 2 dosas, now you eat 1 dosa.
But my question is still that, okay, 33% it has grown in the last 3 years. अगले 3 साल में कितना होगा पता नहीं और inflation कितनी होगी पता नहीं. And then I feel like if I'm doing this on my own, I'll have to constantly keep a check. So is that the right way to do it? That you should constantly keep a check or should you have a wealth advisor?
You should have an advisor. You should have an advisor for the simple reason that you need someone. So I would say spend a ton of time meeting advisors.
Okay.
Decide. So you have to have a meeting of the minds. Your goals and objectives of what you're doing, why you're doing, have to match.
Okay.
And if they match, then your investment decisions will be similar. See, I'll tell you why you need an advisor. You're asking all the right questions right now, right? But now you've got a day job, right? You can't do this all the time.
Right.
Right? So you're what I would call a weekend warrior
Okay.
when it comes to your investments. Right? Saturday, you'll take out some time, you'll spend time, look at it, say, okay, yeah, 33% hai, this and the other. Okay, maybe I should do that. Now, during the week, all kinds of crazy things could have happened. Next Saturday, you look at it, and all of a sudden, that 33% is down to 20%. So, what happened? Right? Now, you will spend way more time trying to figure out what happened
Right.
and whether you made the right call, second guess your call. Rather than doing all of that, you set your goals clearly, you set your investments clearly with an advisor. When something goes wrong, see, the most important job of an advisor is to remind you why you're doing what you're doing
Okay.
and to assure you that you're still on the right path.
Okay.
Right? Now, there's a simple way of doing it, right? I mean, a simple way of thinking about it. आपका जो goal है, you set it, right? Let's take, once again, education. 18-year goal is set, inflation is adjusted, etc., etc. You know what your corpus is needed the day your daughter turns 18, right? You work backwards from there. I need to get this every year,
Okay.
right? And I need to fund so much every year, right? So that becomes, what in cricket terminology becomes your required run rate. Every month, every 6 months, every year, you sit down with your advisor and you say, okay, I was supposed to get, my 100 was supposed to become 112, 113. Where is it today?
Okay.
Says, we've had a good year, it's at 115. So you're very happy. You will continue adding more money because that's what you have to do. Now, let's say it's now 115. Next year, it's supposed to be 130, but it is actually 120. So you now have a 10 rupee gap between where you should be and where you are. So you should top it up. What is a required run rate versus your current run rate?
Okay.
And that's the way you need to think about it. But most of the times what people will do, they'll go down to, okay, what fund is this? What return is this? How am I getting it? What is the 3-year performance? None of that is important. What is important is how your total corpus is growing. And the reason for that is each fund has a specific purpose. It's like, I mean, think about food, right? When you eat a meal, you don't just eat one thing. You don't just eat roti by itself. You eat roti, then you'll have a dal, you'll have a sabzi, you'll have, if you're a non-vegetarian, you'll have something. You eat all of that, that constitutes your meal. Portfolio वही होता है. The function a roti performs in your digestive system is very different than what a dal does.
Right.
Simple. So an equity fund will have a different function than a debt fund. So you need a mix of all of that. ऐसा नहीं है कि one is good and the other one is bad. Which is the way it's often portrayed. Okay, bhai, did you get into small cap? Did you get into gold? You missed out, right?
Right.
Now, anybody talking about small cap nowadays? No, 2 years ago that was all the rage.
Okay.
Now they're not talking about it. Why? Because it's underperformed. So, does that make small cap bad? Not at all. You just have
it
to
does
have
make
it
small
as
cap
mix.
bad, no? Then
Why?
because no one's
If it is
talking
part
about
of your mix, do you know?
Acha.
Now, let me ask you this. Can you predict which one of these things is going to go up
it.
next?
No.
Right? Your job is to make sure you have a well
So
diversified.
you're saying even if something is not trending, so to speak, anymore, your
It has to be
portfolio
part
should
of it.
have everything.
Absolutely.
Okay.
See, think of your diets, right? सब लोग बोलते हैं well balanced diet.
Right.
Why can't you apply that to your own portfolio? Should be a well balanced, well diversified portfolio.
But now tell me that the wealth advisor that I'm going to, how many, what is the percentage of male advisors versus female advisors?
Too many. So that's where we have a challenge as an industry.
So abhi mujhe lag raha hai that, see, we are talking about men being better investors.
No, we're not talking about
no,
that.
I'm saying that I'm talking about the stereotypical mindset that
fair
people
enough.
have is that men are better investors and hence you have more wealth advisors who are males. Females are probably not opting to be wealth advisors, again thinking that I'm not probably as good at the job. Women are not investing, again thinking the same thing, that I'm probably not. I have statistics for that as well.
Yep.
But that is the general notion that people have. So when as a woman, I go to a wealth advisor who's a male, then I'm thinking that again a male is doing all the job for me. Then what am I doing? And should I be able to trust him as much?
You're asking all the right questions. So today, there are registered investment advisors. Only 10% are women. 90% are male. So when the notion is that men are better investors, well, the whole game is stacked against, right?
Right.
because there are just more men there. So you're going to have more, but just by virtue of
Numbers,
probability
yeah.
and numbers, you're going to have more successes coming out of the male, right? So that does not mean. In fact, there's a study in that University of Warwick did that looked at over, I think it was over a 3-year period, women investments versus their male counterparts. Women investors came out ahead by 120 basis points.
Okay.
So there's evidence also that women are better investors, right? Now, why are there fewer?
Right.
It's because of these notions. It's because of this soch. वो यही सोच बदलनी है. And so we're spending a lot of time essentially doing two things. Encouraging more distribution and wealth advisors in women.
Okay.
And of our distribution partners, right, a lot of them, I say, okay, if you've got kids, you bring your kids into the business, right? Like most families will try and do. If you have daughters, you bring them into the business first.
Okay.
Because you need to, because this is a very important cohort. Now think about it. You have more women that are working today than they ever used to be. You have more women that are getting better educated than they ever used to be.
Right.
What does that mean? That means more women are earning better than they ever used to. If you do not provide for them a mechanism, you're going to lose that cohort. So your question is, how do you do that? It's a circular thing. And it's not going to get fixed overnight.
Right.
Just like you know this, that societal change does not happen overnight. Soch itni jaldi badalti nahi.
Ji.
Right? So you have to keep at it. So we have to, if we can add 5%, 10% more distributors that are women,
Yeah.
I would take that as a victory.
Absolutely. I think those distributors will be able to convert more
Correct.
women as investors
Correct.
as well.
See, I'll tell you why it's important, because you pointed it out very correctly, is that you have certain focus, certain desires, certain goals, certain these things, right? But the number one thing is not to sound silly,
Yeah.
right? That's all humans.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sound silly.
The fear of making a fool of yourself.
Correct. Exactly. That fear gets accentuated 10 times when you're sitting across a male advisor. Because you're already thinking that he thinks I'm a moron.
Yeah, and like I just read out that study to you, where it says that they push the safer product to women, thinking they'll be able to convert them faster.
Yeah. But if you're sitting with a female advisor,
Just ease
you're
out
on my
instantly.
side.
Right.
Right? That's what. See, I'd like to think that I'm very empathetic, right? I understand. I mean, I've spent a lot of time studying
Right.
this. But I will never be able to truly understand the issues you face on a day-to-day basis, the biases you face on a day-to-day basis, because I don't experience them.
True.
I don't, and I've seen this. So a lot of times my wife will say this to me. Can you tell this guy to do this?
Yeah.
I said, you know exactly what needs to be done. I don't even know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell him? No, it'll make a difference. That's a bias that I never experience, but that's what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Right? So I may understand the concept that we need to be more forward-thinking, etc., but I won't be able to say, okay, sometimes I'll say, okay, what's the problem, right? And that's exactly my reaction. Whereas if you tell a friend of yours the same thing, that I'm trying to get my husband to do this, she will understand that in a second, because she's dealing with the same stuff.
Exactly.
And that's the same thing you need. You need your advisor on the same wavelength as you.
True.
And so, I mean, there's a lot of programs that we're trying to put in place now to help drive that initiative.
And the same study that you were talking about, also, I also have some numbers from that, which I would like to tell my audience, all the men and the women out there, that women outperform men by 0.4% to 1.8% annually. Correct me wherever I'm wrong. Women also experience fewer extreme losses, and women lose about 2.5% in a bad market year, while men lose about 3.8%. And this is because women are safer investors, but they are consistent investors. They don't take as many risks. They don't do betting or stock market investment on their own so much, but they do it consistently. And that is what I want to tell all the women out there also, that you are better investors if you only put your mind to it. Now, I want to also ask you one question that when you talk about products, when the new products are coming out in the market, investment related, uh, do you think there's a need to have products which are specifically targeted towards women? For example, if you take a woman's life cycle, they very often outlive the men. And if you see the divorce rates, 30% of marriages end in divorces today, and the 60 to 70% which are sustaining also, most of them, not all, but quite a few of them are sustaining because the woman doesn't have the financial freedom to exit it. So do you think there should be certain products which are specifically catering to women's needs?
Let me ask you this. When you started your own investment journey, did you look for products that fit your specific?
I did not even think about it.
Yeah. There's no such thing. When financial products are made, right? We think about your bank account. Bank account knows whether you're a male or a female when it gives you your interest at the end of the month or the end of the year. No. So why should there be specific
But
products?
like, for example, if you're, for the lack of any other example, if you, mobile companies would have a pink color phone, which is targeted towards women because they want more women to buy that product. Just a very stupid example. I'm asking that if there were more products, do you think women would
So
invest
if I
more?
turn my brochure pink, you'd buy it more?
No. Not the
It
brochure.
does not
but
work.
okay.
But or kya pink banao? How do I sell it then? It's in the it's not a tangible product, right? You comparing a pink colored phone to a bank deposit or a mutual fund investment. There's nothing. See, I'll tell you, and you're asking a very valid question. In
Like
that,
you have
should
education
you have?
loans or something like that.
Why would a male not have an education goal?
Like that, should you have a product which is only targeted towards women, like a divorce product, for example, or
Okay.
something like that?
All right. So a
Yeah,
divorce
I mean,
product
like,
is what?
let's talk about
Financial security.
financial security. Like initially, there weren't any prenups, and then prenups started happening. Although I think it's a stupid concept because when you're getting married, you're already thinking about a divorce.
Correct.
So in that sense, I'm saying to guarantee a woman's financial security, not keeping in mind her family or her children or the other people that she's investing for.
So, short answer, no. Partly because there is no need. You are already ahead because you're thinking on goals. So, your one goal is, okay, education. Your other goal could be financial security and retirement, right? If that's your goal, then you're investing along those lines. None of these things that I'm talking about are necessarily gender-based concepts, right? Financial security is a human concept, right? I mean, you want financial security, whether you're male or you're female. I think you brought up a very valid point, is that women live longer than men. So therefore, the financial security aspect takes even more importance, right? Do you need to have specific products for women? No. I don't believe, because that then suggests that you need something different and special, which is not the case. What you need is just simply better understanding and packaging of the same thing. Now, how do we do that? If you're planning on retirement, here are the 4 or 5 things you need to get done. Now, you dial up your risk metrics. So if you say, I want to reduce my risk, then the products that are riskier get dialed down. That's all. If you want more risk, then those go up. That's where you specialize. Now, I think what you're talking about is saying, can I create a product that says, yes, we can. I mean, if there's anything we do well, is create products, right? Everybody does that. Something new, right? Does it really make a difference? No, it is more a marketing thing.
Okay. Just define risk a little bit more, also keeping in mind the volatility of the markets in situations like wars, etc.
How do we look at risk? What do we think of risk? Let me turn it around. Ask you, what do you mean by risk?
When I'm investing in something which is suddenly going to crash.
Okay.
Too much. Way beyond my, calculations.
So the action of it going down is risk to you.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
That's the fundamental problem.
Okay.
That is not risk. The risk is if a 100 rupee investment goes to 60 and never comes back but goes to 0. That is true risk. 100 going to 60 is volatility, because 60 can go right back to 200. So the risk you're worrying about is not really risk, because you're only looking at an action in a short time frame. So when you think of risk, you have to be thinking about permanent loss.
Okay.
What is the probability of permanent loss? Now, why does permanent loss occur? आप जब investment करते हो, या तो product खराब है, या तो आइडिया खराब है या तो लोग चोर है. That's where you will lose all your money.
Okay.
Right? That is real risk. 100 का 60 होना is not risk. That is volatility. But everybody then panics around that. You're saying exactly, I mean, what you've defined is precisely the thinking we need to change.
Right.
Why? Because it's a time frame issue. 100 going to 60 is in what time frame? Let's say 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Which is painful.
Right.
But what happens after that? आपकी goal कितनी देर है? Your goal is very far off. बहुत दूर है. So what difference does it make in 3 months if it went down? You've got 3 years for it to catch up. And it does catch up.
Will it 100% catch up? Like, surely.
So you see the history? It has done, no?
Right. But I want to know what is, like, at what point do you know that now I should remove my fund from this, my money from this fund?
At what point do you remove your money?
Yeah,
See, that's
like-
where you need an advisor.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why. You need someone that is doing this every day, 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Right? Because
So this is not a man-woman thing.
Not
it's
at all.
basically
Bilkul
studying the
nahi.
market so much that you have a good
I,
idea.
in fact, feel that a lot of the men are unfortunately stacked against them. Because they think they can do it, and you're competing against guys like us that do this 24 hours a day. Now, think about it, right? You are excellent at your day job, right? You can host multiple people, ask great questions, get a viewership going. Can I do that? No. So that's like me saying, I'm going to study Chhavi over the weekend, see how she does it, and I'm going to start my own thing. Or I'm going to try and compete with her.
Right.
While I do my day job, right? So I'll do the weekend warrior on the other side.
That's an unfair demand.
Correct. It's forget unfair. It's impossible. I'm never going to be able to compete. You're doing this 24/7, 7 days a week.
Right. So
Right?
I think the main problem with women is that they want to excel at everything. Because I think women are so used to multitasking and being good at most of the things they do. They can handle a household really well. They can do well in their jobs. They can be good parents. They can even teach their kids. And then they feel, I can't invest. I want to be best at everything. And when they realize that, no, I'm not being able to be the best here because I just don't have the time to understand it, then they take a backseat. Okay, fine, let him do it. Does that make sense? Is there something
That does
some
make sense.
that
That
you
is
got?
the reality. That's what you've just listed out is the practical reality of what we have to change. Right?
It is
See,
actually
you
not so
mentioned one
complicated.
thing at the start of this last segment. Women manage the house. What is that? That is portfolio management. That is asset allocation.
Right.
हाथ में पैसे आते हैं. You allocate to food, you allocate to clothing, you allocate to entertainment, and you allocate to savings. You are doing it already. What you need is in that investment category, you need someone to guide you to tell you कहाँ करना है. That's all.
Right.
And so what if you can't do it? You're not supposed to be doing it yourself. It's like me saying that okay, I'm going to study over the weekend and become a surgeon.
Right.
You can't. You're competing against the surgeons, right?
Like even the odd jobs, if you have a carpentry job at home, you don't start doing it on your own. You're perfectly fine to delegate it to somebody with pride that I handled this.
Correct.
Right.
So there has to be, you have to understand the difference between a hobby and your profession. If you want to do investments as a hobby, be very clear that you are going to have some pain. And you have to accept that pain. If you want to make it a profession, that's a totally different thing. Then you're doing what we do.
I also want to ask you that when I open my portfolio and I see a lot of reds coming down, how much should I panic?
Not at all. Why? If you could control your emotions, you'd be a much better investor. So I think the issue happens is that, see, look at it. When we go into the market to try and buy something, you have an inherent sense of what is this worth,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you say, okay, 100 ka hai, so if I get it at 80, I'm getting a good price, right? What is the market? The same thing. The equity markets are the same thing. It's every day somebody is trying to assess the value of that company. So if yesterday it was worth 1,000 rupees and everybody was thrilled buying it, today it's at 600 rupees. All of a sudden now it's what? A lousy company? Or you're getting it at a cheap price.
Oh.
See?
Oh.
So it's the assessment. See, it's all about how it's why are you panicking? You use the word panic because you saw a lot of red. I think of it exactly the opposite. I look at it saying that if I liked this yesterday, I'm getting it cheaper today, I should love it. So it's once again
Right.
time horizon.
Yeah,
That's like
and
I
it's
said.
perspective.
You'll find me repeating the same thing quite a bit only because these concepts are very, very simple concepts, but they're very difficult to put into practice because emotions play havoc with us. And you need to be able to get rid of that. If you can control your emotions, I mean, that's how Warren Buffett became rich.
You're telling women to control their emotions.
Why not? See, that's another misnomer. I've met enough women
Yeah.
that have phenomenal control over their
They
emotions.
must be really good investors also.
True.
Right.
And I've met enough men who have no control over their emotions.
And bad investors.
Correct. So you need to be
Right.
So I feel there's a direct correlation between the level of emotional content you bring to a decision in investments particularly.
Yeah, I
and
think
the
everywhere.
outcomes. And the outcomes.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Even in any kind of working environment, any profession, absolutely that holds true. Thank you so much, Avinash, for spending this time with us. And anything else you want to add, like a last tip you want to give, especially to the women investors? How should they start for somebody who's never done this in their life before?
Okay. So first and foremost, make a list of your goals. Right? What do you want? Whatever the goals are. Could be as simple as I want to go on vacation to Switzerland or
Okay.
to wherever. Right? That's my goal. Put a number to it. Then go find a good advisor and sit down and make a plan.
Okay.
Simple as that. Do not, I mean, I'm not going to say don't educate yourself. Please educate yourself. Study, understand. But don't feel obliged to make decisions on your own. Because then you are forced to stick with the results and you don't have anybody to bounce the ideas off of. And that's what you need.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to leave the women with the thought that जब हम कोई खाने की नई रेसिपी देखते हैं तो जब हम उसको YouTube पे देखते हैं तो बहुत complicated लगता है. But when we start actually going to the kitchen and actually make it, we feel like, oh, this was really simple. So I think it's kind of like
Exactly.
that. Once you start doing it, you start getting the hang of it. And it's
Absolutely.
all about just when you want to start doing it. And I've started doing it. And thank you so much. I learned a lot today. Maybe I'll have a few more questions after I cut the camera as well. But you guys tell me, how did you like this conversation? Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? Please put them down in the comments below. You're watching Candid Confessions with Chhavi. This is both of us signing out. Love and peace from us to you.